Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. So in this episode we're going to assemble the full top end of this Raptor 660 engine, and after that we will install it into the quad and we'll see if it fires up. So stay tuned for that. But first, I've got everything laid out over here, and as mentioned before, we're going to install the top end. So we will start by installing the piston, then we'll install the cylinder head, we will install the cam cover along with these caps, and after that we can put on the tensioner, do the timing, oil pipe. This one goes from the cylinder head to the oil filter housing, and after that we can put on some coolant flanges and these intake boots. But first we need to degrease this engine because this one was painted quite recently, but the paint I used didn't harden, so we're going to repaint it. But first we need to strip off the old paint, and after that we can repaint it. And whenever that's finished, we're going to do the installation of the cylinder. And of course, the easiest method to do this is while everything is disassembled, but I couldn't help myself. I wanted to assemble the bottom end, so that's why I'm doing it now. We can still make sure that this looks great. We're using a silicone degreaser because that gets rid of all of the old paint, and then we can make sure that we have a clean surface. Alright, so the most important thing to take note of is the indentation on the piston. This indentation is for one of the intake valves. On the other side you will see an arrow on the piston, and this arrow usually indicates that the direction of the arrow needs to face towards the exhaust side. Alright guys, so as you've just saw, I've installed piston on the connecting rod, and I oriented the piston rings so they're all oriented the correct way according to the Yamaha manual. And now we will be installing the cylinder, and to do that we first have to put on a gasket. But one note is that my mating surface is pretty dinged up. This is a critical area because this is where it seals. I'm going to first put some sealant on it, and after that the gasket. So I really don't recommend doing it this way, but this is what I'm going to do, and we'll see how this holds up. So first I'm going to file this down, and after that we will apply the sealant and put on the gasket. Okay guys, so I was able to grind it down, so it feels quite smooth. There's not a bump anymore over here, but it's very critical to do it this way. The shavings can go into the engine, and I put a rag inside and I vacuumed it out just to be sure. And the thing is that if there are any filings in the engine, that would really suck, because since they're aluminum, the magnet won't pick them up. So I tried my best. Let's hope for the best, and we'll see later. Alright, so as you can see, it's just a very thin layer, and the only thing I want is that the liquid gasket will account for some imperfections that are there. Now we're going to install this gasket. The thicker portion on the bottom goes downwards and this hole goes upwards, so we're going to install it this way. Now we're going to loop up the piston as well as the piston rings. I'm going to use some assembly lube, and we need to make sure that the rings will stay into place. That's the most important thing. So I'm going to loop up the piston skirts. You can also do this by using engine oil, but I really prefer using this assembly loop. Before we will install the cylinder, we need to make sure that this O-ring is in as well. So the first two rings are in, and now we need to focus on the oil rings, and we need to be very careful with those. So I'm going to double check if they're not found up anywhere, and it doesn't look like it, so you really have to take your time doing this, because otherwise it may go wrong, because these rings are quite brittle and they can break quite easily, so you definitely don't want that. Okay, now we can feed to the guide as well as the chain. Okay, so the cylinder is into place, and the next step will be to install the head studs as well as these two bolts, and then we will torque them to spec. Alright guys, so now we can install the head bolts, and these 4 bolts, usually you need to replace them. I'm not going to do that, I'm just going to run these. And we also need these 2 bolts, so let's get them cleaned up and then we can torque them to spec. Now my girlfriend actually wants to torque these to spec. Oh, slightly over torqued. No, I'm joking. Okay guys, so now we can put in the 2 other bolts, and these are M6 bolts, and these need to be torqued to 7.2 foot-pounds or 10 newton meters. So we torque the bigger bolts to 30 foot-pounds, which roughly translates to 42 newton meters. Yeah, perfectly. Perfect. Alright guys, so next up we will be installing the head gasket along with the cylinder head and the camshaft sprocket. One important note is that we need to make sure that there will be tension on the chain, because otherwise it may slip off the gear on the crankshaft, and then we have quite a big issue. So what I did, I removed the side cover, and behind here is the timing chain, and I already loosened up this, so whenever it pops off I will be able to reinstall the chain on the gear over there. Alright guys, so the gasket is into place. I'm going to install the cylinder head, so I'm going to brake clean this off. And now we need to finesse it into place, because the chain needs to go through this hole as well. Alright, so that's on there. Now we're going to tap it into place. And I also made sure that there's some weight on the chain as well. I don't particularly advise to do it with a torque wrench, but just get something heavy so the chain won't fall down. We're going to tap it into place. Make sure to tap it evenly. So there are 4 main head bolts, and there's one on the back side that goes in like this, and there's one underneath over here that will go on like this as well. And there should be a 7th bolt. Oh yeah, the 7th bolt is over here. Yeah. I'm going to run them down by the impact tool, and after that we will make sure that we torque them to spec accordingly. Now we can start torquing. So now everything is torqued to spec. We can do the other 2 bolts, and after that we can do the smaller one. And this one will be torqued to 7.2 foot-pounds or 10 Nm. Okay guys, so as you may have already seen, I needed to remove the starter motor, otherwise the torque wrench wouldn't fit in here because the starter motor was in the way. So let's reinstall that, and after that we're going to install the Allen head one. So now we're going to install the camshaft, and the camshaft consists of a decompression mechanism. So it comes with a pin, a spring, and this decompression rod. So in advance I'm going to loop up this, and after that we can loop up the decompression shaft. So there's a bigger hole and there's a smaller hole, and we need to insert it on the bigger hole. So we're going to put this spring on top of this pin, and now you will see it's sunken into place. I'm going to take a flat screwdriver, small one, and I will press it into place, and then we put the rod into. I'm going to press this in, and it will come out the other way, as you can see. First we're going to put some lube on it, just a little bit, and then we can just slide it into place. So whenever you turn this, you will see this go up and down. So now that the camshaft is in, we need to make sure that the outer oil channels will be facing upwards. So as you can see, these are the inner oil channels. We're going to rotate it, and now you will see that the outer ones are facing upwards. And now we'll go about installing this cover, because we need to make sure that we will place the piston in top dead center. And we can do that by lining up this mark with a mark in the casing. So let's first make sure that this is tight, and after that we can put the cover back on, and then we can line this mark up. So now that everything is back together, we're going to rotate the crankshaft to make sure that the markings inside of this inspection window line up. Here you will see the H, but we need this mark to line up with this hole. Alright, so now we can move on to installing the timing gear, and how we're going to do that is that you will see that there are 3 punch marks, and this needs to be facing upwards, so like so. We'll take the cam, and we need to make sure that the outer ones face upwards as well. Then we're going to slide it over. So as you can see, I've got these 2 oil holes on their outer lobes facing upwards. I have these bolt holes aligned, and I've got this punch mark facing upwards. There's one on the left, one on the right, and I've got this decompression shaft marking also facing upwards, and the pins are in these slots. Alright, so it was some finessing, but as you can see, the outer dots line up with the cylinder head on both sides. The one that needs to face upwards is upwards. The punch mark on the compression shaft is also facing upwards. The pins are correctly slotted in, and these oil holes are facing upwards, so now it's correct. And another thing to check is we are still at top dead center. So now the next step will be to install these guide plates, and there's one on this side and one on the other side. And now we'll take the second guide plate and we'll do the same process. Now we can move on to torquing these. So to make sure that it doesn't spin, we will hold the crankshaft. So this one is torqued. Now we're going to rotate the engine counterclockwise again to do the other one. Here's the other bolt. So now we can install the other timing chain guide. So let's lube it up, slide it into place. So to double check once again, we have the crankshaft in top dead center, and we're going to check if we can see the dot. It's visible on the left side and it is visible on the right side as well. And the oil grooves are also facing upwards. So this means that we correctly timed the engine. Okay guys, so the next step will be to install the camshaft cover. There's no gasket that comes over here, so we're going to use some RTV, and then we can put it into place. Now we can put in dowel pins. Here I have the camshaft cover, so we'll put a little bit of assembly lube on the lobes. Alright guys, so I've put all the bolts into place. If you do this yourself, there are 2 bolts behind this inspection cover, so make sure that you have those. Now we're going to run them down by hand. After that we will torque them. Alright guys, so now we will torque them to spec, and we will torque them to 7.5 foot-pounds or 10 Newton meters. And I'm just going to do it in a crisscross pattern. I'm going to do it inside out. Now we will install the cam chain tensioner. It has this gasket that seals it, and that will go into place like so. Behind this hole is the cam chain guide, and that's where this presses on. So how does this work? Whenever you pull this tab downwards, it can slide down, and whenever this is down and mounted, we're going to install this bolt with this post on it, and it also has this copper washer, and this spring presses down on the part we released. So whenever we're going to put some tension on this, you will see it pop out. This will ride the cam chain guide, and we'll put it into the correct tension. So before install, make sure that this is reset. Just going to apply some lube so it will stick into place. Now that that's into place, we can take the housing and we can mount it by using this M6 Allen bolt. We will tighten these to 7.2 foot-pounds. We can make sure we will put the copper washer on this bolt, and then we will slide the spring on top of the post, and now we can press it in, and you can already hear it clicking when doing so. We can torque it to 16 foot-pounds, and that will translate to 22 Newton meters. Now we will check the lash on the intake valves. They need to be between 4 thousandths and 6 thousandths of an inch. So I'm just going to put them at 4 thousandths of an inch. So first off, make sure that the engine is in top dead center, and then you will notice that there is some play on the rocker arms. And what we're going to do is we're going to slide this feeler gauge in between the valve stem and the rocker arm. So as you can see, it fits right through it. This one is a little bit on the loose side, and this one also is on the loose side. And it's easier to have feeler gauges that have a bend in them like this, but I have those, but I couldn't find them right now, so I'm about to do it this way. And to adjust these, we need to make sure that we hold this, loosen up the nut, then we can spin this, and then we can tighten up the nut with the feeler gauge inside. So I already went ahead and loosened up these 10mm bolts, and now we're going to set the valve lash. There's a special tool for this, but I don't have it, so I'm just going to do it with some pliers. So now that we've done the intake valves, we will move on to the exhaust valves, and these need to be between 6 and 8 thousandths of an inch. So the exhaust valves were already set correctly. These were about 7 thousandths of an inch. So these are already in spec, which is fine. The intake valves were somewhat on the loose side, so I've put those to 4 thousandths of an inch. So now that the valve lash is completed, I'm going to install these covers. This one needs to be torqued to 7.5 foot-pounds or 10 Newton meters. And after that we will install the oil line. that goes from the oil filter housing to the top of the cylinder head. And after that we're almost done. Now we will install the oil pressure check plate, and this is an important one. There's a bolt with a crush washer on the bottom, and this is where you will check if you have oil pressure. So when starting it for the first time, you're going to crank it without spark, and then you will see the oil flowing from here.